Expanded setting. Xalor Prime was a harsh and unforgiving world, a stark contrast to the vibrant civilizations that thrived elsewhere in the galaxy. The planet's surface was predominantly rocky and desolate, dotted with jagged mountains that loomed like ancient sentinels over the barren landscape. The air was thick with a mixture of sulfur and ash, giving the sky a perpetual overcast appearance, casting everything in a muted gray hue. The ground was uneven, littered with sharp stones and patches of alien vegetation that appeared as if they had evolved to withstand the planet's harsh climate. Some of these plants emitted a faint bioluminescence at night, creating a surreal glow that illuminated the otherwise dark expanse, while others had spiny, razor-like leaves that seemed to reach out as if to ensnare any unsuspecting traveler. Caves and crevices were scattered throughout the terrain, serving as hiding places for the planet's native creatures. These dark, damp sanctuaries often echoed with distant growls and rustling sounds, hinting at the presence of various predators lurking just beyond sight. The planet was home to an array of dangerous species, from the cunning Skrull hunters to the monstrous Xalorian broodmothers, each adapting to the extreme conditions in their own way. Elijah Reed had heard rumors about the treasure hidden in these caves, remnants of ancient civilizations long gone. But as he ventured deeper into the planet's interior, he realized that Xalor Prime was more than just a graveyard of lost technology. It was a living world, filled with mysteries and dangers that tested the limits of his resolve. Inside the cave where he found the Broodmother, the atmosphere was stifling, the walls slick with moisture that glistened in the dim light. Stalactites hung like jagged teeth from the ceiling, while the ground was uneven, strewn with rocks and bits of debris. The faint sound of dripping water created an eerie rhythm, interspersed with the occasional rumble of distant thunder, hinting at storms brewing outside. The cave was both a sanctuary and a prison, offering refuge for the Broodmother, yet serving as a reminder of the isolation inherent to Xalor Prime. Shadows danced along the walls as Elijah moved cautiously, each step echoing softly in the stillness. It was in this dark, claustrophobic space that he discovered the raw, untamed essence of life, facing the stark realities of survival in a world where danger was omnipresent and the line between friend and foe was often blurred. Expanded main character. Captain Elijah Reed was a seasoned scavenger in his mid-30s, a rugged man with a weathered face that bore the marks of countless adventures across the galaxy. His dark hair, perpetually tousled, framed piercing blue eyes that seemed to see through the chaos of the universe, searching for hope amid desolation. His sturdy build spoke of years spent braving the elements, while the scars on his arms hinted at the battles he had fought, not just against the physical dangers of alien worlds, but also against the demons of his past. Elijah was not just a scavenger. He was a survivor. Raised on a backwater planet that knew little of the luxuries of advanced technology, he had learned the value of resourcefulness and resilience from a young age. His upbringing instilled in him a deep respect for life in all its forms, a trait often overlooked in a galaxy where humanity's survival depended on exploiting resources and taking what was deemed valuable. A skilled mechanic, Elijah had an innate ability to fix things, whether it was a broken ship engine or a malfunctioning piece of equipment. His hands were calloused but deft, capable of intricate work in the tightest of spaces. This talent had earned him a reputation among fellow scavengers, and though he often worked alone, he was respected for his skills and ingenuity. What set Elijah apart was his moral compass. In a world filled with ruthless mercenaries and opportunistic traders, he chose to uphold a code of ethics, refusing to exploit the creatures and resources he encountered. Instead, he often sought to understand them, believing that every being had a story worth telling. This philosophy led him to often take risks for the sake of preserving life, whether it was rescuing a trapped animal or aiding a struggling colony. Despite his tough exterior, Elijah carried a burden of guilt from his past, a haunting incident that had cost the lives of several crew members during a salvage operation gone wrong. The weight of that loss followed him like a shadow, influencing his decisions and fostering a fierce determination to protect those who could not protect themselves. This drive manifested itself in his interactions with others, as he found solace in helping the vulnerable and marginalized, even if it meant putting himself in danger. When he arrived on Xalor Prime, Elijah was initially focused on salvaging valuable technology. Still, his innate compassion quickly shifted his priorities. Encountering the Xalorian Broodmother in distress awakened something within him, an instinct to protect and nurture rather than conquer. This transformation from a solitary scavenger to a guardian was a pivotal moment in his life, revealing layers of his character that he had long buried beneath the scars of his experiences. As he stood in the cave, watching the hatchlings recognize him as their master, Elijah felt a renewed sense of purpose, a chance to redefine his legacy. He was no longer just a wanderer in search of scraps. He was a protector of life, forging bonds with those he once considered monstrous and discovering that even in the darkest corners of the universe, hope could flourish. Expanded conflict. The conflict in The Master of Monsters escalates as Elijah Reed becomes increasingly aware of the dangers lurking around him on Xalor Prime. His initial discovery of the Xalorian Broodmother and her hatchlings seems like a serendipitous encounter, but it quickly morphs into a race against time. As he nurtures the fragile creatures and forms a bond with them, a darker threat looms on the horizon. A group of mercenaries known as the Iron Vipers, notorious for their ruthless tactics and insatiable greed. The Iron Vipers had long been in search of the legendary Xalorian Broodmother, driven by the lucrative bounty placed on her by a shadowy syndicate. This group sought to capture the Broodmother for her ability to produce powerful hatchlings, creatures that could be sold as exotic pets, weapons, or even biological experiments. Word of Elijah's presence on Xalor Prime and the Broodmother's newfound safety reached their ears, prompting them to set their sights on the cave where Elijah and his companions had taken refuge. As Elijah spends more time with the Broodmother and her hatchlings, he becomes increasingly protective of them, realizing that their lives are intricately linked to his own. His initial focus on survival and salvage shifts to a fierce determination to defend this unlikely family. The stakes grow higher as he witnesses the hatchlings' developing abilities, which make them even more desirable to the mercenaries. The bond between Elijah and the creatures deepens, and he feels a profound sense of responsibility to ensure their safety. Tension mounts as Elijah receives warnings from other scavengers about the approaching Iron Vipers. They share tales of the mercenaries' brutality, recounting stories of entire colonies decimated for the sake of profit. Each rumor sends chills down Elijah's spine, and he grapples with feelings of inadequacy and fear. He is a scavenger, not a warrior, and he questions whether he has the skills to protect the Broodmother and her hatchlings from such formidable foes. As the mercenaries close in, Elijah devises a series of makeshift defenses around the cave, utilizing his mechanical skills to create traps and barriers. He gathers resources from the surrounding area, constructing a sanctuary that feels like a fortress against the encroaching darkness. Yet, each day that passes brings new challenges, both logistical and emotional. Elijah must balance his efforts to protect his newfound family with the haunting memories of his past failures. The pressure mounts as he faces not just physical threats, but also the psychological weight of potential loss. In a moment of vulnerability, Elijah confides in the Broodmother, expressing his fears about the Iron Vipers. To his surprise, she responds with a low, rumbling sound that reverberates through the cave, an ancient song that seems to convey understanding and reassurance. It's a reminder that he is not alone in this fight. The hatchlings, too, begin to show signs of their own burgeoning abilities, instinctively protecting their home as they mimic their mother's movements. The situation reaches a boiling point when the Iron Vipers finally locate the cave. With weapons drawn and a determination to capture the Broodmother and her hatchlings, they launch an assault that forces Elijah to confront his deepest fears. In that harrowing moment, he must decide whether to stand and fight or to flee, weighing the lives of the creatures he has come to love against the overwhelming odds stacked against him. The battle for survival looms ahead, with the fate of his makeshift family hanging in the balance. expanded bonding with hatchlings. As the days turned into weeks, Captain Elijah Reed immersed himself in the nurturing and care of the hatchlings, Kael and Mira. The moment they recognized him as their master marked a turning point in his life, a shift from a solitary scavenger to a protector and mentor. This bond developed slowly, built on trust and shared experiences that forged an unbreakable connection between them. Initially, the hatchlings were cautious, exploring their new surroundings with wide, curious eyes. Their scales shimmered under the dim light of the cave, a riot of colors that shifted from deep emerald to vibrant azure as they moved. Elijah would sit cross-legged on the rocky floor, allowing them to approach him at their own pace. He would speak softly, his voice low and comforting, coaxing them closer with gentle words. Kael was the more adventurous of the two, often darting forward to investigate anything that caught his attention. His playful nature brought laughter to Elijah's heart, reminding him of his own childhood. One day, as Kael discovered a small, glowing insect clinging to the cave wall, Elijah watched as the hatchling approached it with a mixture of intrigue and caution. When Kael pounced, the insect darted away, and the hatchling squeaked in surprise, causing Elijah to chuckle. That laughter seemed to echo in the cave, breaking the tension that had settled around them. Mira, on the other hand, was more reserved, often staying close to her mother, the Broodmother, and observing her brother's antics. Elijah noticed that she had a keen sense of intuition, often watching him closely as if analyzing his every move. He began to engage with her differently, employing hand gestures and encouraging her to mimic him. It became a game of sorts, as Elijah would clap his hands or point to different parts of the cave, prompting her to follow suit. As the hatchlings grew more comfortable in their environment, they began to display their unique personalities. Kael exhibited a mischievous streak, often getting into trouble by exploring beyond the safety of the cave. Elijah found himself chasing after the hatchling more than once, laughing and calling out to him as Kael playfully zigzagged through the rocky outcroppings. These moments of lightheartedness helped Elijah alleviate the stress of the impending threat from the iron vipers. Mira, while less adventurous, showed an innate curiosity about the world around her. One day, as Elijah gathered materials to fortify their shelter, he noticed Mira observing him intently. She seemed fascinated by his movements, particularly when he used tools to fashion a makeshift barrier. Elijah paused, smiling at her, and decided to involve her in the process. He handed her a small piece of metal and guided her tiny claws to bend it, teaching her through demonstration. To his astonishment, she quickly caught on, her eyes lighting up with excitement as she successfully shaped the metal. These interactions deepened their bond, transforming the cave into a haven of learning and play. Elijah began to see the hatchlings not just as creatures needing protection, but as companions with whom he could share experiences. He would tell them stories of his adventures, embellishing the tales with excitement and suspense. Kael and Mira would listen, their eyes wide, occasionally letting out soft chirps as if reacting to the dramatic twists in his narratives. As the bond deepened, Elijah found that the hatchlings possessed a remarkable capacity for empathy. When he expressed worry about the impending danger from the mercenaries, they would nuzzle against him, their warm bodies providing comfort. Their instincts seemed to resonate with his emotions, creating a unique connection that transcended language. Elijah marveled at how they seemed to understand when he was feeling vulnerable or strong, adjusting their behavior accordingly. One evening, as the cave was illuminated by the bioluminescent plants outside, Elijah sat with the hatchlings, teaching them simple sounds and gestures. He introduced a system of communication that involved chirps for yes, low growls for no, and a series of clicks for alerts. The hatchlings responded enthusiastically, eager to engage in this new form of interaction. Their enthusiasm only reinforced Elijah's determination to protect them, fueling his resolve in the face of the threats that lay ahead. The experience of bonding with Kael and Mira transformed Elijah in unexpected ways. They became his motivation, inspiring him to think beyond mere survival. As he looked into their vibrant eyes, he realized that his purpose on Xalor Prime extended beyond scavenging for technology. It was now about safeguarding these creatures and nurturing their potential. The hatchlings became a symbol of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape, their existence reminding him that even in a world filled with danger, connections could thrive and life could flourish against all odds. Expanded threat from mercenaries. As the bond between Elijah and the hatchlings deepened, the threat from the Iron Vipers loomed larger and more imminent. Whispers of the mercenaries' approach spread among the scavenger community, carried by the winds that howled through the rocky crags of Xalor Prime. With each passing day, Elijah felt the weight of impending danger pressing down on him, transforming the once vibrant atmosphere of the cave into a tense and foreboding space. The Iron Vipers were not just ruthless mercenaries. They were a notorious syndicate known for their brutal efficiency and merciless tactics. Their reputation preceded them, tales of mercenary raids echoing through the taverns of distant planets. They thrived on chaos and fear, often leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Their leader, a cunning and merciless figure named Varek, was known for his ruthless ambition and relentless pursuit of profit. Varek had set his sights on capturing the Broodmother and her hatchlings, seeing them as a valuable asset in the black market, a weapon to be sold or a trophy to flaunt. Elijah first heard about the Iron Vipers from a weathered old scavenger named Jax, who had taken refuge in the cave system weeks before. Jax recounted tales of the mercenaries' past conquests, chilling stories of entire colonies overrun, their inhabitants either slaughtered or enslaved. The old man's eyes glinted with fear as he spoke, warning Elijah that the Vipers would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. This news sent shivers down Elijah's spine, awakening the shadows of doubt and fear that he had worked so hard to suppress. The reality of the threat became increasingly apparent as Elijah began to notice the signs of an approaching storm. Disturbances in the wildlife around the cave hinted at something amiss. Animals fleeing in panic, their instincts screaming of danger. The usual sounds of Xalor Prime's flora and fauna had been replaced by an unsettling silence, as if the planet itself held its breath in anticipation. Each day, Elijah took careful note of the sky, watching for signs of the Iron Viper ships descending through the thick clouds that obscured the sun. In preparation for the inevitable confrontation, Elijah turned to his mechanical skills, transforming the cave into a makeshift fortress. He scoured the surroundings for anything that could be repurposed into defenses. Old machinery parts, broken tools, and abandoned tech became components of his makeshift traps and barriers. He fashioned sharpened stakes from the dense, spiny alien plants that dotted the terrain, setting them in strategic positions around the entrance to the cave. Elijah also crafted alarm systems using the bioluminescent flora, attaching delicate fibers that would trigger a bright flash of light and a series of loud snaps when disturbed. He knew that time was running out, and every moment spent fortifying their sanctuary was a moment closer to the confrontation he dreaded. While working, he shared his plans with Kael and Mira, allowing them to assist him in their own small ways. The hatchlings would carry bits of debris to him, their excitement infectious, and for a fleeting moment, the heaviness of their situation lifted. Despite his preparations, Elijah could not shake the gnawing anxiety that crept into his thoughts during the quiet hours of the night. He lay awake, the sounds of the cave echoing in his mind, envisioning the mercenaries storming through the entrance, weapons drawn, eyes gleaming with greed. Would he be enough to protect his newfound family? The hatchlings' trusting gazes haunted him, a reminder of the responsibility he bore. He felt the tension rising within him, a tempest of fear and determination swirling as he resolved to do whatever it took to keep them safe. One fateful evening, as storm clouds gathered overhead, Elijah heard a distant rumble that was not the thunder of an impending storm. It was a sound that sent his heart racing, a low, mechanical hum. He peered out from the mouth of the cave, his pulse quickening as he caught sight of the telltale silhouette of a ship hovering above the treetops. The Iron Vipers had arrived. Instinctively, he moved to alert Kael and Mira, gesturing for them to stay close to their mother. The hatchlings, sensing his distress, nuzzled against him, their soft scales warm against his skin. In that moment, their presence grounded him, reigniting his resolve. He had trained himself to be strong, but now, more than ever, he understood that true strength lay in protecting those who depended on him. Elijah quickly reviewed his makeshift defenses, ensuring everything was in place. He could hear the low voices of the mercenaries filtering through the trees, punctuated by bursts of laughter and the clinking of gear as they prepared for their assault. The air grew thick with tension, an electric charge buzzing around him, a reminder that danger was imminent and unavoidable. As the iron vipers descended upon the cave, their silhouettes stark against the darkening sky, Elijah's heart raced. He steadied his breath, steeling himself for the fight ahead. The safety of the Broodmother and her hatchlings depended on his actions in these next moments. With one last glance at the creatures he had come to love, he readied himself for the confrontation, knowing that he would not back down without a fight. Expanded theme of family and compassion. At its core, the Master of Monsters explores the profound themes of family and compassion, weaving a narrative that highlights the interconnectedness of all beings, regardless of their origins. As Captain Elijah Reed navigates the treacherous landscape of Xalor Prime, he discovers that family extends beyond blood relations. It encompasses the bonds forged through shared experiences, love, and mutual support. This theme is particularly poignant as Elijah transforms from a solitary scavenger into a guardian and nurturer of the hatchlings, Kael and Mira. The catalyst for this transformation is his encounter with the Xalorian Broodmother. Initially perceived as a fearsome creature, she soon becomes a symbol of resilience and maternal strength. Elijah's decision to save her and her hatchling stems from a deeply ingrained sense of empathy and compassion, a stark contrast to the merciless world around him. This moment marks the beginning of a journey where he learns to embrace vulnerability, realizing that true strength lies in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. As Elijah cares for the hatchlings, he experiences a profound shift in his understanding of family. Kael and Mira, though alien in appearance and nature, fill a void within him that he had long thought irreparable. He recalls memories of his own family, the laughter and warmth they shared, which had been replaced by the loneliness of his scavenger life. In nurturing the hatchlings, he begins to heal, rediscovering the joy of companionship and the importance of connection. Their innocent curiosity and unwavering trust inspire him to push past his own fears and insecurities, instilling in him a sense of purpose that transcends mere survival. Compassion becomes a driving force in Elijah's life as he learns to navigate the complexities of raising the hatchlings. He approaches each interaction with patience, recognizing their need for guidance and understanding. Through play and storytelling, he imparts lessons of empathy, kindness, and bravery. These moments of connection reinforce the idea that love and compassion are universal, transcending the barriers of language and species. The hatchlings, in turn, respond with their own forms of affection, often nuzzling against him or mimicking his movements, solidifying their bond. Elijah's growing attachment to Kael and Mira underscores the transformative power of compassion. When he first arrived on Xalor Prime, his heart was hardened by a life of isolation and survival. Yet, as he nurtures the hatchlings, he witnesses their capacity for love and trust, which softens the edges of his soul. In their presence, he learns to let go of his past grievances, embracing the warmth of familial bonds that had eluded him for so long. The hatchlings become more than just creatures he saved. They become his family, and their well-being becomes his foremost priority. The theme of family also extends to the Broodmother, who, through her nurturing instinct, embodies the essence of unconditional love. Elijah's relationship with her evolves from one of wary coexistence to a partnership grounded in mutual respect. As he cares for her hatchlings, he acknowledges her sacrifices and the depths of her maternal instincts, realizing that they share a common goal: the protection and upbringing of the next generation. Their dynamic becomes a testament to the idea that family is not limited by biological ties, but can be built through shared responsibility and commitment. As the threat from the Iron Vipers escalates, the theme of family and compassion manifests in Elijah's fierce determination to protect his newfound loved ones. The bond he has formed with the Hatchlings compels him to take risks he never would have considered before. In moments of danger, he prioritizes their safety above his own, illustrating the lengths one is willing to go to for family. This shift in mindset transforms Elijah from a self-serving scavenger into a selfless protector, a warrior fighting not just for survival, but for the love and future of those who depend on him. In essence, the story reveals that compassion is a powerful force capable of bridging divides and healing wounds. As Elijah embraces his role as a guardian and nurturer, he learns that the love he gives and receives strengthens his resolve in the face of adversity. The Hatchlings' recognition of him as their master becomes a poignant reminder of the familial bonds they have created together, a bond that will not easily be severed, no matter the challenges that lie ahead. Through the lens of family and compassion, the Master of Monsters conveys a message about the importance of connection and love, showing that even in the darkest of times, it is these relationships that give life meaning and purpose. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the strength of family is not defined by conventional norms, but by the willingness to stand together in the face of fear, to uplift and protect one another, and to cultivate love in all its forms.